counted among the outlaws. He said, "Come, follow me." People from all walks of life since have been becoming outlaws.
Welcome back. We have Natasha Owens. She's a contemporary Christian music artist. When we had her last on, she had recently released a patriotic album, American Patriot. Soon after being on this podcast, which I believe would have been a year ago, last March, she released an additional track called Trump Won. And that thing had tens of millions of impressions, went viral on social media, debuted at #1 on iTunes. And if you were living under a social media rock, here's what that sounded like. Welcome back, Natasha.
It's great to be here. Thank you for having me again.
My pleasure. Trump won. What had you decide to lean in so heavy to politics?
Well, first, I crossed paths with politics back in 2017. We were part of President Trump's Faith Initiative team. So I got to see the inner workings of what he really tried to do. But after he left office, we did not walk a path of politics at all. And it crossed my path again about a year and a half ago. And I did the patriotic album, which was very frowned upon in Nashville. They're very progressive. I call them woke, right? And they don't line up with their audience, the values of their audience. And so I was shocked that I got pushback from a patriotic album, right? But on that album, I put a song called Stand for Life, which is my pro-life song anthem that I gave the movement. And that was the thing that started to unravel the beginning of last year, where radio stations were trying to get me fired off of events, promoters, because I was too pro-life. I could be too controversial, which I was absolutely stunned. And my husband had been saying for 2 years, we need to do a Trump One and You Know It song because nobody's allowed to say it. Let's give a voice back to the people and an anthem for this movement, just to kind of like, we know it. We're not stupid. We know what happened. And I said, I can't do that. For 2 years, I pushed back because I knew that it would throw a stick of dynamite in my 11-year contemporary Christian career because they hate Trump so bad in Nashville. It's just derangement city. So I got so mad about the pro-life song and the pushback that I said, I'm turning and I'm turning hard right. We are going to do a Trump One song. So I called my producer, my co-songwriter, me, Ian Eskelin, and my husband always write songs. And he's the master. Ian's the mastermind behind it. And I said, we got to do a Trump One song. And he's like, oh God, Tosh, I thought you said no to that for so long. He was afraid because he lives in Nashville and he knows what the repercussions of it, which we're living it today. We've been ostracized, right? So that it has to be your idea and it has to be, it has to be your decision because you are the one that's going to face the consequences. I don't live in Nashville. It doesn't bother me on a daily basis. But you are in this industry. So he said, let me pray about it. And so a couple weeks passed. He called me at midnight and he said, we are so doing this song. And I said, okay, well, what changed your mind? He said, I sat at the table tonight and I prayed. And I said, God, starting a song is the hardest part. I always like to start in a chorus. He said, if I'm supposed to do this, if we're supposed to do this, help me find how to start this song. He stood up from the table and immediately ran through his mind, you got dead people voting drop boxes in Dominion. And I said, oh, Ian, we can't use the D word, the Dominion word. And he said, no, Tosh, I prayed. That's what God gave me. And our country is under Dominion and it has nothing to do with the machine. And we use Dominion in a lot of your songs. And he said, we're not changing it. And I said, so you're in? He said, I am all in. And so that is what started the Trump One song to be created.
Yeah, I think people would be surprised where you're talking about Nashville is woke. And Nashville, there's various things going on in Nashville. So you have country music and contemporary Christian music, but you're talking about the contemporary Christian music industry. And I know that to be true. Even back in the mid 90s, up to the mid 90s, I was involved actually in Nashville DJing and kind of involved in knowing people that were writers and singers and things. Even then, there wasn't what you'd call woke. But I left the industry quietly without criticism because there's an underbelly. Even then, people didn't realize because even the Christian labels are owned by secular conglomerate labels. Right. So it's about business. Everyone has to make money. That's understood. And there's great Christian people in it. But there is an element, and I'm sure you know way more than I do now, that is very pure business. And that kind of goes along with where the culture is at.
Correct. I mean, the left and the progressives have really done a great job in the 7 mountains of culture. They've dominated the culture from every aspect. And now they are trying to push out the conservative voices and anything that's truth. And we've let them do it. We've absolutely let them do it. And so they've accomplished a lot of ground there in Nashville.
Yeah. And I think they sort of get a pass because it's creative, right? They're artists and they lean artsy and left and liberal. But am I right in looking at the country scene and saying that even seems to be more conservative than the Christian music industry?
I agree with that. And there's several reasons why that has not completely taken over in country. You've got the younger ones coming up, this younger generation who I think has been a little bit more indoctrinated in our educational system to make them more progressive and socialist communist type mindset. So you'll find the younger ones, but there's still some older ones in country music that has turned that way, very progressive. But as the base as a whole, I see country music as being the traditional cowboy, the traditional values that line up very closely with their followers. They are followed by the paparazzi. They're more in the media than contemporary Christian. And so they can't hide two sides of their life. Christian artists, we're known by our songs. Half the time we're not even known by our faces or our names. It's really by our songs. And so a contemporary Christian artist can get up on the stage and present a side of them that when they're just talking about Jesus and they don't bring in their personal political views or progressive views or whatever. And so they hide that. So it's like a double life, right? And if their fans really knew who they were following, and I know God can work through us every day if our mindset is right and lined up, and if we're in prayer and so forth, that's the whole big thing about Christian music. But if the core of you believes in things like abortion and transgender and all these liberal progressive ideas that do not align with the Bible, then I don't believe that you line up with your followers. And so there is a big gap in contemporary Christian, more so than country.
Last year when I think I first saw your video on Facebook, I commented, I just wrote hilarious. Trump won.
A lot of that.
Yeah. And then I feel the same. Watching your second protects the first. I got done watching that video and I felt the same way. Just it's kind of hilarious.
We wanted to do a very tongue-in-cheek, speaking the truth can be hilarious in this time because it's unbelievable that we have to talk about certain topics. I never thought we would fight these battles 10 years ago that we're fighting. My uncle was murdered with a gun. My dad made a mistake cleaning his guns and a bullet hit him in the chest. And so the media is very curious why I still support the Second Amendment. Of course, I'm a Texas girl. I live here in Texas. And I believe that with my uncle, you had a heart issue. You had a mental health issue with that person that took his life. With my dad, it was an accident. It wasn't the gun's fault. So I am very pro Second Amendment based on the fact I think that's what seals our freedom. It's what protects our First Amendment. So I wanted to do a very tongue-in-cheek and fun music video for the second protects the first.
Yeah. You're pulling a revolver out of your glam purse, your blinged out purse.
Very tomboyish, very tough. And of course, now I have the glitzy glitter side, feminine side, but it makes me as an adult be a very strong woman. And so I wanted to show that I can wear a ball gown with combat boots and a gun strapped to my leg. It's very, for people who know me, that video depicted me to a T.
Yeah. And you took the Second Amendment pretty far. You're shooting with a full tank.
Absolutely. A Hummer with a 50 cal. I had a blast.
So who was in that video with you?
Danya Vizzi. So she's become a friend of mine over the past couple of years. She is a gold medalist, World Olympic champion. She just qualified last week for the Paris Olympics coming up. She is amazing and such a sweetheart, and a lot like me. She's very tough, but she's very feminine. So for anybody that knows anything about red bottom shoes, we both wore our red bottom boots. And we would shoot and kick that up. So there's a little cute little cues in there to show our fun side. She's amazing. You need to follow her and root for her in the Olympics.
Will do. So on your bio, you go to your website, which is natashaowensmusic.com. And people write about it could have started with that you had, #1 on iTunes. And how many millions of views at this point do you think your video, Trump One, has?
We were able, I stopped counting a few months ago. We were able to calculate 100 million views of just the video. Of course, the streaming is off the charts and the buys are off the charts. It went #1. And so as you were watching, we had tech suppression like crazy. It got to a point where it went so quickly that they couldn't mess with me without being so visible, but they called it glitches. We would be watching the video on YouTube. People sent me videos of this when they're watching it. It'd be right at 1 million and they would slash it down to 200,000. So that was the 100 million without counting how many, and they were doing it as of 2 weeks ago. So, when you go to YouTube, it shows 1.8 million views or whatever. No, it went viral on TikTok for sure.
Yeah.
But if I was able to really gauge it to get actual proper awards, that would have set me up for a Grammy. That would have set me up for multi-platinum, just what we were able to track. So, but unfortunately, I'm not going to get kudos on that one.
Yeah, the suppression is a negative of social media. The positive is what we're talking about with you could sort of leave contemporary Christian music industry in the dust and just have a career because of social media. You can still get your songs out.
Absolutely. It's a very grassroots type movement in any music genre right now. You put out something that goes viral, you're going to get attention and noticed.
Yeah.
So because of the Trump One song, I didn't know what direction I was walking, and I still am not completely clear. I love the ministry side of contemporary Christian, but the media, they said I was hotter than Taylor Swift because I knocked her out of #1. Because of that, they deemed me the next Lee Greenwood. So he's at some point he's going to retire. I'm walking this patriotic path like him, and that may be my home for the future.
Yeah, you're having fun now, no matter what, right?
Having a blast, actually, the funnest I've ever had.
Yeah. So where I was going was on your bio, you could have started with that. I've got this viral thing, but instead, if you go to your bio on your website, you start with, there's something intrinsic about humanity and a survival instinct. Most of us will do whatever we can to keep our head above water, to take one more breath in and out, to keep breathing and keep our heart beating. But God's intent for his children, his creation, wasn't limited to survival. He intends for us to thrive. I've come that you may have life to the full. Why do you open up who you are with that commentary?
Because my heart is ministry. Back in 2010, when my dad died from a accident with his gun, life as I knew it, I felt ended. After the year mark, I downsprouted into a deep depression, and I would not be alive today if it wasn't God crossing my path with music. And so music is very powerful. People say, what can a song do? It can save a life. It's saved a lot of lives along the years. I've seen it. God has used me. And so my heart is ministry. And yeah, I have fun. I had a really tough decision when I decided to veer into politics because I did not want to be divisive. I wanted to be, I'm an artist of restoration and healing, but I'm also an artist of truth. And I wanted to illuminate the truth and do what I can in the lane that I'm in to save this great country. And so I made that decision, and I just said, God, I want to be able to minister at some of these things. I don't mind singing the Star Spangled Banner. I love it. I love singing patriotic music. But if I have an opportunity and time, I throw in some ministry and a little bit about my story, because everybody's going through something faith shaking, and I need to plant a seed of God and overcoming and second and third and 57th chances that God gives. to somebody who needs it. So that's where my heart is, ministry, and that's why I lead out with that.
Yeah, non-conservatives, a majority of them do not have a problem taking bold political stands. It's the conservatives that are either closet conservatives or usually silent. So it's always refreshing when somebody stands up, and you'll get attacked for doing that, but then you're also going to get a lot of loyalty from those that appreciate it.
Yeah, well, my sons, I have two grown sons, and they sat me down and said, "Are you sure you want to do this? You know what's going to happen." And I said, "Boys, I love this country so much, and I feel that I can make a difference and help. And I can't live with myself if I don't stand up and do what I can and try to make a difference to fight for your freedom and your kids' freedom. And I would be ashamed if I didn't try something, didn't try to fight." And so I made them understand that it was worth it. Sometimes it's worth it. I may go down fighting, but it will be worth the sacrifice.
For sure. So I have a little fun fact for you, even though it's probably your fun fact. So let's talk about Elvis for a minute.
Yeah.
Any chance I have to talk about Elvis, I do it. As a matter of fact, I just recently had on Bill Stanley, one of Elvis's stepbrothers, and which to a lot of people was a fun fact. They didn't even know he had three stepbrothers, but it's a major part of his life. So let's start with what I'm alluding to, because you already know. What's the fun fact with Elvis with you?
So on my dad's side, my dad's grandmother, that he was raised in Saltillo, Mississippi, right outside of Tupelo. And his grandmother's very poor, lived right down the street, went to the same church, and she was like the neighborhood midwife. So when Elvis's mom went into labor, she delivered Elvis and the twin was dead for hours before the doctor got there. Of course, she's never listed in any kind of museum or any kind of commentary, but I came across a diary of hers when I was a teenager, and I could not believe what I was reading. It was every account of that day, and all my family knew it. I don't know where I was within those 14 years, but I had never heard it. And so it's just a really cool thing. Our families have continued to be close to the Presleys, and all his cousins, mostly his cousins, who was really involved in law enforcement in that area and still are, from DAs to sheriffs. So it's a cool that I have that in my lineage.
Yeah, well, I'm encouraging you. You need to do something with that diary or those words, because even for your grandma's sake, I thought, I didn't doubt that was true. I believe I heard you say it in an interview. It was like and I pulled up some years ago interview. And, yeah, and I thought, you know what? It's kind of like those things where I thought I knew everything about Elvis. I didn't know that. I thought it was Dr. So-and-so. Yeah. I forgot his name now, but they even have a new plaque in January they put out. If you visit, Tupelo, you're going to see Dr. whatever his name was who delivered Elvis. So I thought, I'm just going to find on the internet where it mentions her grandmother, find her name. And I could not find it.
Not even at the museum in Saltillo when you go to it. When my grandmother died, I looked for that diary. I knew exactly where it was. We were packing up her house, and that it disappeared. But I think I know in the family who has it, and I'm just praying that eventually I'll get it back in my hands, because that was our branch, not theirs. Even though that's their history too. So when I get it, I have already talked to the museum in Saltillo, and I want to donate it to them, because it's an account of those hours that the doctor could never account for, right? That gives a little bit more of history. So we'll find it.
You may know this, but I want to tell you what I found. Trying to find that, it was very hard. But I collaborated your story. And let's see. So it looked like, I found like the doctor's journals. He had marked, I'm trying to think. Elvis was, so his brother, stillborn brother, Jesse, was the 919th person the doctor claims to have delivered. Elvis was 920. And in his records, he has it all documented. But it looks like it was, so he was paid for both. He didn't give any credit to anybody else there. Even in his writings, in his own writings, he said something about not knowing there was a second one, Elvis, but he felt her stomach, knew it was coming. He kind of details it. However, In Good Housekeeping in 1978, in an interview with Vernon Presley, Elvis's dad, he describes it differently. Have you heard this one?
I have not heard this. I've just read my great grandmother's words.
Okay, well, if you ever want to Google this one, here's a second source for you to match up with your diary thing. So in Good Housekeeping, 1978, it was an interview with Elvis's dad, Vernon. Here's what he says about that morning. He says, Elvis's birth was long and difficult for my wife. And as her labor pains went on and on, I grew frantic. My parents were at our house with us, along with two women, one a midwife. That's the only place I found it, but there it is. Doctor doesn't mention it.
Yeah.
Then he says, who told us when it was time to call the doctor. After what seemed an eternity, a baby boy was born dead. I was desolate at the loss of our child, but then my father put his hand on my wife's stomach and announced, Vernon, there's another baby. The doctor wrote that he put the hands on the stomach and said there was another baby.
He according to her diary, it was at least 3 hours before he showed up. They were afraid because the brother was stillborn, that they were, you need to have somebody more. They were very poor. They could not afford a doctor. That's why the midwife came in. The midwife didn't have all the technology. They didn't know they were having twins. When the baby was stillborn and the other one was coming, if you have somebody with more experience that can save that baby, right? And then you also have to notify when you have a baby that's born stillborn. So that's when the doctor was called, and it took him 3 hours from that call to arrive. So he didn't even assist in the birth of Elvis.
Right. And that bothers me, and I'm not even related. It's not my grandmother. Just because if you go to the Graceland or Elvis websites or Tupelo, it states differently as fact.
Yeah.
And they're going off of his diary, which wasn't correct.
It was not. Of course he was going to take credit. A star was born and it was at his hands, right? So yeah, he's silent on that bad. But it does rob me of a little bit of our history. But I know the truth, and our family knows the truth. And maybe I just need to talk about it more. And we got to find that diary.
That's right. Find it. Now you have a second source you can put alongside that diary.
Go back and look. I was 2 years old when that came out. So I will go back and read it now that I can read.
That's right. That's right. At the end of your bio on your website, you concluded about you. You ended with, he doesn't call the equipped. He equips who he calls. Explain that. And is that a life lesson for you? Did you come to learn that?
Yes, because I come from a very musical family. My grandparents recorded albums back in the 70s. And I struggled with severe anxiety. And so I love to sing. Music is a part of every minute of my life. But I wanted to be in the background. I never wanted the solo. I wanted on the back seat of the choir. It was very hard for me when people found out that I could sing. They wanted to push me forward, and I fought that. So you have to understand, my dad dies. It's the biggest thing I've ever gone through. I'm trying to keep my family together. I'm going through severe depression. I can't get out of bed every day. And my pastor calls and asks me to be music minister. And I said, with everything going on, and then I have anxiety, no, I'm a praise singer, but I can't step up 5 feet and take that leadership role. He called me on a perfect day. I ended up taking it. That was a training ground for what I started doing in the professional world, but I fought it. God illuminated this path. I have an unbelievable testimony that is completely backwards. One of these days I'll have to share it with you. It will make your jaw drop. But I fought it. I digged in my heels and it's something that's been very hard for me because I had to overcome anxiety, and it still bothers me. It's every day overcoming it. Couldn't talk in front of people, just petrified, which affects any singer's performance. So right off the bat, I'm on these big stages with touring with these Grammy winners. And I felt like I was a kindergartner running with a bunch of college professors, but I was not equipped like they were. But the audience still holds you in the professional world to the same standard. There's no room for mistakes, right? Which only brought my anxiety up. And I was on the road with a Southern gospel singer called Jason Crabb, Grammy winner, multi-Grammy winner. And he sat me down like after the first week, and he said, I can tell you're absolutely petrified. And I said, I am trying to work through this. I thought I overcame this on a church stage. but you have to understand why I'm petrified. And he looked at me and stated these words, and it absolutely changed my life. Now, I still struggle today with a certain amount of it, but I have come a long way, thanks to God. He said, Tosh, God never calls the equipped, but he will equip who he calls. One thing I know is that you were called for this. You have a ministry, you have an anointing. You need to rest in that and learn what he's trying to teach you. He's not going to get you to every level by yourself. He is going to be with you. So you prepare, do what you can, and then you let go once you hit that stage, and you let God guide you. And so it changed my world. From then on, I was a different person. I was a different artist, and I'm so thankful for that.
Yeah, it's inspirational. It's hard to find, even in scripture, a time where God really uses somebody and they already have the skill set to do it.
It doesn't happen that way.
It doesn't happen that way.
He wants you to, whenever you jump out and you're successful, that you know that it's not you that did it, it's him, and he gets all the credit. And I look back, I mean, the things that I have done in 2 years, singing for presidents, singing for President Trump, singing for governors and senators and world leaders. And sometimes they're all in one room, 60, 100 of them. And I look out and I say, thank you, God, you've brought me so long of a way, because if this had happened in the very beginning, I wouldn't even be able to speak on the stage. And I'm just so thankful that God has put me in the position, and I'm being a center influence to bring godly values to a secular world beyond the four walls of a church. And I'm thankful that God's using me in that aspect.
Yeah. Well, I appreciate you. You're inspirational. I think you're still doing ministry, and you have a backbone for sure with the way you're leaning into politics. And I want to close.
Fun with it too, can I?
Oh yeah, for sure. Yeah, and it's totally entertaining. Speaking of, I'm going to close out with Party People, and the the image of that one is a huge rhino. Explain that one.
Okay, so I'm sure I'm talking just like every normal person here in America. This is not a battle between left and right. It's a battle between sane and crazy, between up and down, good and evil. We finally got a hold of the House, right? We finally took control over it. And what has happened? There has been nothing that has slowed down the weaponization of our government, the enormous spending, putting us in inflation, not putting America first. We have the ability with the purse strings to actually defund that. And we haven't done it. The Republicans haven't done it. And so I began to really dig a little deeper and see it's not just Republicans and Democrats. This is a two-party system, but we've got now the conservative movement and all of these, what I call Rhino or Judas Republicans, that they line up with the left or allow this communist for whatever reason. Are they bought off? Are they blackmailed? I don't know. I don't know why. They're not doing the right thing. And so I thought it was time to call them out, the rhinos, and actually show their faces in the video. Well, when we completed the song, was about to start on the video, it was summertime here in Texas last year, and Ken Paxton, what our House did to him was completely illegal and was a sham. They tried to impeach him, and he overcame all of that. And so I thought, you know what? I'm going to do a Texas version too. I'm going to throw these Texas rhinos in, because we need to know who they are and we need to vote them out. So when we wrote the song, I'm recording the song. We wrote it as elephants and donkeys. And I thought, okay, I know this is going to be very controversial, but I kept calling them asses. And I said, I know I'm going to get filleted from the Christian genre, but it's a biblical noun, right? And I didn't pick a mascot, and I know it's strong, and and I don't really want to sing a cuss word, but there's a lot of words that I could describe it, but that's probably the most mild. So let's just go with that biblical noun. And I haven't gotten any flack, and it actually made the song just a little funner. So that's what we did with Party People.
All right. We're going to close out with that. Thanks for being on, Natasha. Appreciate it.
Thank you so much for having me.
Deep state, gonna deep state. Can I get a rebate on my vote? You better listen fatter. It's really just collusion with some wallets getting fatter. Party people in the house, put your hands up high. I can't tell the difference from the left to the right. Elephants and asses who don't know good from evil ain't my kind of party people. Party people, we're taking back the USA. Party people, party people, party people, cue the DJ. Party people, we're taking back the USA. Party people, party people, cue the DJ.
When you go to Mar-a-Lago, there's a restaurant in the middle of it, and Trump likes to DJ. Did you know this?
Did not.
He sits in the middle of the restaurant. He goes to these functions that are at Mar-a-Lago, and then he goes and has dinner. And he's got an iPad, and I didn't know what he was doing at first. I was watching him one night, and he would scroll through. He'd be in a conversation. He'd stop, scroll through, pick a song from Pavarotti to Michael Jackson to YMCA to Barbara Streisand. Like, it's just not it's not a complete playlist. It looks like 4 different people, assign these songs. And when he picks a good song that everybody cheers, he stands up. Didn't I pick a song? Didn't I pick a good song? I did good. And so, which is total Trump, And I just thought it was funny that he likes to be called the DJ. So we put that in there as a fun little bit that not everybody knows. Cue the DJ. And it's Trump, Donald J. Trump.
Counted among the outlaws, he said, "Come, follow me." People from all walks of life since have been becoming outlaws.